first question. So, Abraham Lincoln and vampires. What's that all about? Where'd that come from? The answer is from wandering into bookstores. I like to spend time in bookstores, big, small, mom and pop chains, big city, small town. Wherever I am in the country, I like to go to a bookstore because it's research. I like to go in and I like to see what's on the front tables, what people are lifting up and looking at, what people are interested in. And about 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half, it seemed like every bookstore in America, in anticipation of the Lincoln bicentennial, had a Lincoln table in the front of the store. And it also seemed like there was a new Lincoln book coming out. Well, it seemed like on a weekly basis. You know, there was Lincoln's horse, Lincoln's law practice, Lincoln's axe swinging abilities. So every aspect of Lincoln that could be dissected and written about would be dissected and written about. So there was a Lincoln table in the front of every bookstore. It just so happens, it's also the time, you remember, that the Twilight sort of reaches critical mass, apex. And so inevitably, I would see a vampire table right next to the Lincoln table. And this happened time and time again in every bookstore I wandered into. Lincoln, vampire, vampire, Lincoln, vampire. And I thought, people can't seem to get enough of Lincoln and vampires. I wonder if it's like the Reese's peanut butter cup philosophy, you know? And so, you know, I love to read history for pleasure, you know, for Doom, Walter Isaacson, David McCullough, you know, people who just know how to bring history to life, and that's what I do my pleasure reading. Most of my pleasure reading is that and scary novels. So I had a passing familiarity with Lincoln, probably no more than, you know, I did when I was in high school, to be honest with you. So the first thing I did was I tried to give myself a crash course in the Lincoln life story. You know, I tried to, you know, I reread Doris's book. I read a book called Lincoln President-Elect by Howard Holzer. And then, you know, I hopped on the good old internet and tried to give myself sort of a working knowledge of Lincoln. Now, I knew in a couple months worth of research, there's no way I'm going to become a Lincoln expert. There's no way I'm going to become a Lincoln scholar. There's probably no way I'm going to become a Lincoln student, really, in that amount of time. But that wasn't really my goal. That's not the goal of the book. The goal of the book is to entertain, but what I wanted to do was put as much real history in the book as I possibly could. So I gave myself a crash course in Lincoln, and something that I did not expect to happen, which is I fell in love with Abraham Lincoln. Not in a literal sense. I know there's people who've written about that. We don't even resist that definition. But what I mean is, here is a man who suffered the trials of Job. He's a man, and I did not realize this before my research began, who, from the time he is born to the day he dies, never really gets out from under that black cloud over his head. There are moments when he, you know, we all know he had a famous love of telling funny stories, and he can be very jovial, but most of the time, those happy moments in his life were unfortunately just a prelude to some next great tragedy. And yet, here, this man picked himself up time and time again after he buried his mother, after he buried his sister, after, if you believe the rumors not, he buried Anne Rutledge. I know this is a matter of some debate. So, after he buried two of his sons, after he dealt with some of, you know, Mary's bad days, he had not a penny to his name. He had no name, for that matter, to trade on, and he had no education to speak of. And yet, here's a man who, through the sheer will and genius within him, achieved the greatest office, the highest office in the land, and oh, by the way, used that office more brilliantly than probably any holder that office ever had. So, I fell in love with this man. I couldn't get enough of this man. And And I realized very early on that I better not screw this up. Because here I am standing in the center of all things Lincoln. The last thing I want to do is make a guy on the penny and Mount Rushmore and the $5 bill look bad. So anyway, I was very sensitive about, when I started the book, I was very sensitive about, okay, look, Seth, I said to myself, this is how I talk to myself. I said, look, Seth, you better do your homework. You better not make this guy look bad. You better get things right, or you're going to be in a world of hurt. So that's what I tried to do. I tried, as ridiculous as the idea of Abraham Lincoln fighting vampires is, I tried to get as much real history in the book as possible. I tried to stay true to the real character or the way I interpret the real character of this great man. I tried to stay true to his ideals, and I also tried to make it really cool. I was blown away by how many opportunities there were in Lincoln's real life. And this sounds kind of stupid saying. I just realized it's going to sound really stupid. I was kind of blown away by how many opportunities there were to have vampires. Well, I mean, we already covered all the tragedies. Let's think about it. Guy's 6'4", way bigger than anybody back then. Well, most people, with the exception of like Jack Armstrong and some of his, other vampire hunting friends. He's this big, thin, gothic, muscular figure. He's dark, he's brooding, he's exceptionally strong, and he knows his way around handling an axe. I mean, what else do you need? This guy's practically already Van Helsing in my from that point on, it was just a matter of adhering to the real life story, trying not to mess up the character traits that make Lincoln look bad, and trying to weave this fiction into those moments that we're all so familiar with. Whether they be the Gettysburg Address, whether they be the loss of his mother, whether they be his first journey down to Mississippi, New Orleans, where he sees slavery at its worst for the first time and is deeply affected by that. I wanted all that real history in the book. I wanted all those familiar touchstone Lincoln moments, many of which are on display here. I wanted them all. There's John Woods Blues. Maybe they could have taken that down for the. I'm going to keep looking at. Listen, we're technically in a theater tonight. So if that guy quits, somebody give me a high five. I wanted all those touchstone Lincoln moments in the book, but I wanted sort of a fun, different way into them, and that's really what the book is. So some people, this is, I wrote a book called Prejudice and Zombies last year. Woo! You fell for it. You fell for it. I experienced the same thing when that book came out. There are some Jane Austen purists in the world who just by the fact that I did anything to Pride and Prejudice, wanted to burn me instead. And that's fine. We need those defenders of the faith. We need the purists. But I think it made me a little more sensitive this time around to, as I said, getting it right. I mean, again, this is a little more serious than Jane Austen. No offense to Jane Austen. Greatest living Americans. Anyway. If I say anything else on this subject, I'll probably put my foot in my mouth. Hopefully you don't know.